The heavy oak doors of the Jefferson County Courthouse swung open with a thunderous bang. Marcus Williams, a tall man with weathered hands and broad shoulders, stepped through the threshold. His wrists bore heavy steel shackles that clinked with every measured step. Behind him, Officer Brett Collins gripped the chain connecting the restraints, yanking it with unnecessary force. "Move it along, Bo," Collins sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. The packed courtroom fell into a hushed silence. Families, reporters, and curious onlookers filled every wooden bench. Their eyes followed Marcus as he walked down the center aisle, his head held high despite the circumstances. The chains around his ankles scraped against the polished floor, creating an ominous rhythm that echoed through the chamber. Collins jerked the restraints again, causing Marcus to stumble slightly. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Several people shifted uncomfortably in their seats, witnessing the deliberate cruelty. Judge Patricia Hartwell looked up from her papers, her eyebrows furrowing at the scene before her. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Defense attorney Sarah Chen stood up, her voice cutting through the courthouse silence. "Your Honor, the defendant before you is not just any citizen. Marcus Williams served 3 tours in Afghanistan with the 82nd Airborne Division." She held up a folder thick with documents. "Sergeant Williams received the Purple Heart after single-handedly rescuing his entire platoon from an enemy ambush. He carried 4 wounded soldiers to safety under heavy gunfire, sustaining shrapnel wounds to his back and leg." The courtroom stirred as murmurs of surprise swept through the gallery. Several veterans in the crowd sat up straighter, their faces showing recognition and respect. "The charges against him today," Chen continued, "stem from an alleged assault on Officer Collins during a routine traffic stop. However, evidence will show that Sergeant Williams was simply reaching for his military identification when Officer Collins escalated the situation." Marcus stood motionless, his Purple Heart medal visible beneath his shirt collar. The same hands that had saved lives now bore the weight of false accusations. Collins shifted uncomfortably, his grip on the chains tightening as the truth began to surface. As Sarah Chen continued presenting evidence, Collins yanked the chain connecting Marcus's handcuffs with deliberate malice. The metal bit into Marcus's wrists, drawing thin lines of blood. Marcus winced but refused to cry out, maintaining his military bearing despite the obvious pain. "Sit down properly," Collins hissed under his breath, loud enough for nearby spectators to hear. He twisted the restraints tighter, the steel cutting deeper into Marcus's skin. Judge Hartwell's gaze sharpened. She had presided over countless cases, but something about this interaction troubled her deeply. "Officer Collins," she called out, her voice stern and commanding. "Please ensure the defendant is treated with appropriate dignity." Collins's face flushed red with anger. Instead of loosening his grip, he jerked the chains again, causing Marcus to stumble forward. Several people in the gallery gasped audibly. An elderly veteran in the front row shook his head in disgust. Marcus straightened himself, blood now visible on his uniform sleeves. His eyes met the judge's with quiet determination. "Your Honor, I can endure whatever is necessary," he said calmly, his voice steady despite the physical abuse. The judge's expression darkened as she watched Collins's continued aggressive behavior, her suspicions growing stronger by the moment Sarah Chen approached the bench with a stack of documents. "Your Honor, I present dashcam footage from Officer Collins's patrol car during the alleged incident." The courtroom's attention focused on the large screen as grainy video began to play. The footage showed Marcus calmly reaching for his wallet when Collins suddenly grabbed his arm and threw him against the vehicle. No aggressive behavior from Marcus was visible anywhere in the recording. Furthermore, Chen announced, 3 witnesses have come forward. She gestured toward the gallery where Mrs. Eleanor Rodriguez, a shop owner, stood up nervously. "I saw everything from my store window," Rodriguez testified. "The veteran did nothing wrong. Officer Collins attacked him without cause." 2 other witnesses nodded in agreement from their seats. Chen then pulled out a fake personnel file. Officer Collins has received 17 complaints for excessive force in the past 2 years. 15 of those complaints involved African American citizens. The courtroom erupted in shocked whispers. Collins's jaw clenched as his pattern of discriminatory behavior was laid bare before everyone present. Suddenly, the courtroom doors burst open. Detective Maria Santos rushed in, holding a tablet device. "Your Honor, urgent evidence has just been discovered." She approached the bench breathlessly. Security cameras from the gas station across the street captured the entire incident in high definition. The footage played on the main screen, showing crystal clear images of the traffic stop. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Collins was clearly seen planting a small bag of white powder in Marcus's jacket pocket, while Marcus was face down on the ground. The officer then pretended to discover the planted evidence moments later. "He planted drugs on me," Marcus said quietly, his voice filled with righteous anger. A collective gasp echoed through the packed courtroom. Several people stood up in shock, pointing at the screen. Judge Hartwell's face turned pale as she witnessed the blatant evidence tampering. Collins's face drained of all color as his criminal actions were exposed for everyone to see. "This changes everything," the judge declared, her voice trembling with fury at the injustice she had just witnessed. Judge Hartwell slammed her gavel with thunderous authority. "Officer Collins, you are hereby under arrest for evidence tampering, perjury, and assault." 2 bailiffs immediately moved toward Collins, who stood frozen in disbelief. "This is impossible," Collins stammered as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. The same restraints he had used to torment others now bound his own hands. "Remove those chains from Sergeant Williams immediately," the judge commanded. As the shackles fell away, Marcus rubbed his wounded wrists, finally free from his unjust bonds. The entire courtroom rose to their feet in spontaneous applause. Veterans saluted, families cheered, and tears of joy streamed down faces throughout the gallery. Mrs. Rodriguez wiped her eyes as she clapped enthusiastically. "Sergeant Williams," Judge Hartwell said with deep respect, "this court apologizes for the injustice you have endured. You are completely exonerated of all charges." Marcus stood tall, his dignity restored. The Purple Heart recipient had fought battles overseas and won another crucial victory at home. Justice had finally prevailed, and the community witnessed that truth and courage could overcome hatred and corruption.